And I think we should be live right now. Let me pull up Spotify really quick so I can pull up some music. At least for me. Sad that you guys can't join in on my jams, but copyright violation's bad. Remember that. Remember, don't use copyrighted content for your test use cases. Otherwise, the RA is going to take your project off of GitHub. Remember that. All right. So let's get signed into GitLab. And I'm going to start off with some very important news. And no, it isn't the latest. It is not the latest update in influxdb. My lady friend informed me that GitLab has dark mode. So the way you turn that on really quick, go into here, go into preferences, and then navigation theme, dark mode. It's an alpha. I haven't noticed any problems with it, and it's better than any third-party theme I used, because I've used it in the past, and there was always like weird uncanny valley stuff. Sometimes comment boxes would show up funny. So anyway, back to the important stuff. There wasn't a whole lot of ticket closures this week. One thing I did try to do actually was to set up forwarding audit logs. SE Linux doesn't like that, funnily enough. You're supposed to ship the logs, syslog, not destroy them, or not fill them up. So, what is it? Cat etsy sys, or rsyslog.d audit.conf. So you're trying to do that. The reason why I just wasn't using the tail module inside of Telegraph is Telegraph doesn't run on root, but syslog does, so it should be able to touch the audit log. But SE Linux is not a fan of things trying to tail the audit log, so so we're just gonna kind of like throw this off on its own little branch for now and just kind of let it chill out. Food. It's something I definitely want to do at some point, but there's usability things. I kind of had just like hey, there's like important things that are half working and they're kind of uncanny valley, and I think it's a better use of time to do that than create a half butt sim. So we're just gonna plop this in here now. Audit rsyslog.conf. So we're just going to put that in here, save it, and then we're going to get rid of this, run. rm etsy rsyslog.d50 audit.conf. Ask it nicely. There we go. All right, so now the fun stuff. CD CD repos shift RMM. We are gonna add. I'm actually gonna remember to do this time. There was another influxdb, so we're gonna get that knocked out here really quick. So we're gonna run our SSH key. We're gonna add our SSH key ~.ssh id underscore. Oh, one command. I've been really tired this week and making some very hilarious typos. It's almost like I'm having a strong Facebook page where it's just like people just having terrible mistypes like they're having a stroke. That's me right now. So this is going to be fun. We are going to go to tasks. I'm guessing 3 and 3, and now we get to do Ansible -playbook tac I, use our inventory, inventory, and then we're going to do shift rmm.yaml. We're going to ask nicely to become root. Or to use sudo on the other box. You're not becoming root. That's actually becoming root and doing things as sudo allow you to do the same thing but with a different paper trail. So when you do things as sudo, it says Matthias, or that my username Matthias escalated to root to do this thing. And if I do like sudo for 5 steps, it'll create an audit trail of those 5 things that I did. Whereas if you do sudo su, there's a paper trail that Matthias escalated himself and became root. And then everything else is done as root from there. So you have no idea of what's really going on. So let's see how badly I broke my RMM server. 8086. Still haven't cleaned up my password manager cruft. Monitoring stuff. Copy. Crap baskets. Let's do this off screen really quick. Monitoring stuff. Copied passwords. Good news, guys, I can't type. Alright, looks like our dashboards are still there. Woot woot. So on the Windows metrics front, there's actually something really interesting that happened. So the event log actually pulls everything into strings for some weird reason. So on Rainer, yay, he's in a healthy state. So we're clean. We're nice and clean and healthy. And reporting remote access metrics, so that's good. So if I go to boards and I go to Microsoft Defender, keep wanting to call it Windows Defender. So let's lengthen this out. Oh, I know what's going on here. So yeah, anyway, what was interesting was the Windows event log shipper actually ships everything out as a string. So if you want to do alerts on the number of alerts have to have an integer in them in order to alert, because it can't do things like a mean on a string, because you can't do an average of a string really. So to work around that, I'm going to have to in Telegraph say, hey, Defender, these things are actually strings, and y'all need to figure that out. So yeah, that's going to be fun. So influxdb is updated pretty seamlessly at this point. We can go look in the release notes to see what happened. GitLab.com, or they're on GitHub. Influx data influxdb. Go to releases, RC3. All right. Window ag mean pushdown, aggregate functions. Ooh. So it looks like they're adding V1 support, which is really awesome, because that would allow things like using all the existing Grafana dashboards. So InfluxDB2 actually, or InfluxDB2 is completely different for authentication from InfluxDB V1 in a good way, because the way agents authenticated before was that they would just go to a bucket and that was it. Or like by default, there is no security on, whereas in 2, you have to use tokens to access data, which is a really good security thing, right? Like, oh, hey, just go ahead and read and write data willy-nilly into my time series database, because, you know, you can't fake that at all if everything's wide open. Totally fine. Or adding in like simple password stuff. Trusting people to use passwords. So what happens now is that you have tokens, which are these really long random strings, and in the UI for InfluxDB, they say, hey, this token can only reach this data, which is awesome. However, those two things are drastically incompatible. So they're coming out, and which sucks because there's a really rich ecosystem of Grafana dashboards is the main use case for that. And I'm sure there's corporations that have their own use cases for this. Main thing is Grafana dashboards because who doesn't love pretty charts, right? So this is actually, most of this looks like it's allowing the V1 compatibility layer, which is awesome. We can look for repos after the stream. Bump, Parapass, Posty. Sorry, I'm reading through the release notes too. I'm of the mind that if you can't trust your software to manage updates correctly, you need to find a new software vendor. So habitually, I just yellow update and sometimes look through release notes later. Yes, in some cases that's irresponsible for some vendors, and in those cases I'm a little warier, but yeah, in general. Oh yes, I did copy all these off. Yay. Yay. Okay. Or I copied some of them off. So these are the fields that I need to copy off into the Defender config to get, these things are really integers. These aren't strings. So basically what this is saying, hey, convert these fields, and then you do a string. I forgot I took these notes. I thought I just left them on the VM out to dry and restored a snapshot. So, yay, everything's working. Happy penguin sounds. Okay. So anyway, that's another thing for later. We're going to fix buckets. So right now on most of the dashboards, you've probably noticed this on stream if you've watched it before, is if I go to the Linux dashboard, it'll work fine, whatever. I'll actually show like my mail server statistics, which is awesome. So boards, but let's say we go to the Windows metrics board, it's not going to load everything correctly because the variable's kind of screwed up, right? So you have to like say, no, I really want to be on the Windows board. So what I want to do is say, you're in the Windows dashboard, I can just assume you're in the Windows bucket. Like that's a very reasonable assumption. So the way you do that is you go into hostname, which has all this stuff in it, or what I think I should have to do anyway. Copy, create a variable, new variable, and let's call this Windows _ host query. And instead of bucket from v.bucket, we're going to do Windows. Oh, I think I've already done this. Windows host. Yep, cool. All right, so now let's go to, I'm just going to create a dummy board for now. Just so that way we're isolating out, like, hey, I just want to pull like the CPU stat, just as like a good indicator. So this one, CPU, what is it, usage, where are you, usage user, usage system, soft IRQ, is there a usage? Oh no, that's like a 1- thing. Anyway. And then, so let's actually do the host. Let's do Rainer. Let's do CPU total. Or let's actually pick the field out here. Get rid of this. Do usage systems. All right, cool. Testy make test face. No, that's not original. Testy make cell face. Self-aid. God, face. I cannot type today. So there we go. Testing Excel face works. So now let's go through and let's configure out our variables. Let's go to the script editor. So instead of saying, let's grab stuff from Rainer, let's grab stuff from the v dot variables windows underscore host. Windows underscore host. And it's not pulling values, which is confusing the heck out of me. So let's go to our settings. Let's go to our Windows host. Because the interesting thing is if I do a query here on this data, just go to Explore. Let's make it a table where we're getting a sorted list just because it's an arbitrary thing. Script editor, I guess we can just do this too. We get the list of all of our Windows hosts. So this is kind of where I'm at a loss, to be honest. So now let's go here, or I wonder if I changed all the cells to Windows, what would happen? I think I've done that before. So let's just do it on a clean dashboard and see what happens. Did I not save that one? Cool. So let's see if that works and we can keep the single hostname variable because I think that's the same in all the buckets besides PVE node. Here, now let's go, yeah, query builder. Let's do mean, let's do Windows, let's do CPU, usage system, or sorry, let's go host, field, usage system. And now let's filter out by the host. Or let's just pick an arbitrary host just so we get the line. Let's go to our script editor. Perfect. So I wonder if we do the... Or no. I think the reason why this breaks is that the bucket's not defined. I wonder if I could statically code the bucket, if that would work. Kind of jank, but I think it would work. So let's do a usage system on v.hostname. So this should break because it doesn't have a bucket. Maybe. Let's submit, see what happens. So yeah, it doesn't have a notion of the bucket that it's supposed to use. Windows host inject. And now it just kind of spirals off here. So it seems that this variable is the problem, but I don't know why. That's kind of the thing that's kind of getting me confused. Because, like, this is a valid query that spits out exactly what I want. So let's look at the bucket query. Or maybe if I try to create it whole cloth. So instead of being lazy and doing copy pasta, I don't really care about this because I know how to make it again. Let's go to explore. And instead of copying our ideas from the past, let's start over. So we want it to hard code the Windows value. We want it to use system. Let's grab load 1. And now let's figure out how to find all the hosts in this series. And we can use some of our stuff. So let's go to alerts. Sorry, let's go to host name. So we want key values, key columns, host. And then we're going to keep the column value. So that's fine. That's fine and dandy here. So now let's go back to our other dashboard. Let's go to our script editor. We don't care about this garbage. So now let's try this again. Let's go to our settings. We're going to go to our go to our variables, create a variable, new variable. Let's not name this after a query. WinHost, create variable. So hopefully this should work. Hopefully. We'll see. So now let's go back to our boards. Name this dashboard. And it's still not showing values. Freaking great. Freaking great. influxdb dashboard defaults value. Nope. Okay, cool. Yeah, this shouldn't hang like that. Need to hang out in the Slack more and ask some questions about this. Because, yeah, this is the confusing part where it's just, hey, this is weird. It's doing weird bucket stuff. So next step, I think, is to try to overwrite the bucket. And, you know, let's just see what we break. So I think if I control F5 this, it's actually going to show the Linux stuff for some reason. And there's a whole bunch of other weird stuff, like the values look way more drastic than they actually are. Like there's these big spikes, but if you look at the x-axis, it's like, oh, 30%. So I need to figure out some like, hey, hard code these values between like 0 and 100. These can kind of be dynamic. Disk usage should be 0 and 100. Because I want the visualizations to be like, this big spike should be like, oh, something's going on here. Not, oh, it went from 20.97 to 20.97. That's, yeah. It looks pretty, but it's not actually useful information. Configure. Also, one other thing, sorry I was running late tonight. Normally I try to start around 8. one of my friends actually decided to buy a computer here in town and he lives an hour and a half away, and I haven't seen him in a while. So I was like, sure, I can go hang out with you and eat hippie food after I work out. And it was great. I had a blast. It was really fun to see you. So if you do watch, hi Grace, it was cool seeing you. The heck? Q length exceeded? So yeah, I'm gonna let myself get squirreled for like 1 second and see if we can change these. X column time, Y column value. Yep. You can do prefixes, color rates, thresholds, background. Yeah. See, like, this is just not very useful info. This one might actually look better as a graph. Or a gauge. Actually, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work, because what if you have C and D drive? So I'll go with this one. That's right. Hover dimension, auto. Y domain. Custom. Yay! Alright, so let's just take an easy one for now before we change up all of our dashboards. Y domain 0 tab 100. So this is a more accurate visualization of what's going on, even if it's a more boring one. But that's fine. I'm more than fine with that. So now let's go to custom, and it'll actually show like CPU spikes and stuff like that. You know, actually useful visualizations, not pretty ones. As much as it hurts to, you know, give up some pretty charts, but. All right. Outbound traffic, that one I'm going to let slide around a bit, because that's a very different kind of ordeal. So now let's do it on the Linux board. Let's trash these. Let's trash this. So now let's go to our Linux metrics. Configure. And then usage idle is always a percentage, so. Yay, actually showing what's going on my box. Hooray. And it'll show like in general, hey, you're like over 100% literally all the time. So is it a less pretty visualization? Yes. Is it a better one? Yes, as well. So that's kind of the thinking. Yay, now I can actually see like the file systems that are doing their thing, and if I'm about to fill up a disk or something. That's very important information. All right. Inbound traffic, that one doesn't have like a hard-coded ceiling, so I shouldn't be making that decision for people, is my thinking behind that. Plus, I mean, some pretty spikes are nice to have too. Not gonna lie, it's not. It's not an influence in the decision. It's just not the primary one. All right. So now let's go to none, 0. Configure. There we go. Yay, more accurate data. That's important. That is very important. Again, streams are going to be all over the place, and oh yeah, Suricata alerts are actually like showing useful info too, which is nice. All right. Web stuff doesn't have any. Proxmox does. Any. So yeah, the next thing to do is hard coding the bucket name. That one's gonna be fun. And we're gonna see what breaks with it. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens when I change the bucket name up. But yeah, configure. Custom 0. And I think the next thing is going to be adding colors. So like this is kind of like the uncanny valley stuff I was talking about. Like, yeah, the data's there and it's being visualized, but I think it's a better thing to visualize that data more effectively than to visualize more things poorly. Especially because some of the stuff I was starting to looking at visualize are things that like I understand the implications of them and what is important and what isn't. As far as like IDS alerts, I kind of get that. System metrics, I kind of get that. Virtual machine statistics, I kind of get that. SE Linux isn't something I play with a lot. I'm one of the people who have to like, excuse me. I'm one of the people that have to like be kind of forced into it. So maybe I'm not the person to be making those dashboards. At least not right now. Or maybe play with SE Linux a little more before I start doing it in production. Before I start messing with everyone's SE Linux configs. Yeah, and I can be like, wow, I'm using a lot of RAM on this node. And I'm using it pretty consistently rather than it's all over the place. So yeah. IO weight is a percentage, I think. Summary of the node. Yeah, IO delay is a percentage. So that one also needs to get scaled out too. And I think color coding would be another good thing too, because different things are like Proxmox using ZFS and it using most of your RAM is actually like what it should be doing if you're using ZFS. Because anything that isn't being used up by a virtual machine up to 7/8 of your RAM or something like that is going to be used for file system caching. And because it's not regular file system caching, it's its own really cool thing. It actually reports as RAM used, unlike your regular page cache, which is just a dumb, like, hey, these were the last things that were there. Which can be a problem when you're trying to like allocate, say allocate 4 gigs of RAM when you're booting a virtual machine. Kind of important. So you might have to put some limitations inside of a ZFS config, but in general, it's a smart thing. Anyway, now that we're all visualized up, let's break some stuff. Actually, really cool feature. We can clone a dashboard to break some stuff on. So now we can see the implications of what happens when we break this dashboard without actual consequences. Oh, it's map. No. So let's copy this guy. Or no. I need to define vdot bucket as Windows up here. R with V with, this is gonna break horrendously. Bucket is going to be a string called Windows, or no, a string called Linux. And that shouldn't break. Unexpected argument V. So let's see where I screwed up that map function and inject that. I think I can define this as Windows hard-coded and it doesn't break stuff, but let's find out. And it should follow everything around, which is good. So let's configure this. So let's copy this onto a clean dashboard and see what happens. To emulate, it's faster to do this than to change all the panels for this. So let's go back to our boards. Let's create a test dashboard. New dashboard, add a panel. Go straight to the script editor like the hackers we are. So maybe we can manipulate the bucket like this. Maybe. Let's find out. Okay, so I'm going to go straight for it. I guess I'll do it on the clone. I have a known good working version. So that one's already hard-coded to Linux. I need to do this to Windows. This will make sense. This will make sense in 1 second. But basically, if we go to the buckets, data, buckets, Linux is alphabetically the first bucket, and I think that's how it loads it in by default. So I want to see what happens if we do it to Windows or Proxmox or pfSense, which are not the first bucket. So that might be a better test. So let's get rid of this bullshit. Sorry, shouldn't swear. I do that sometimes. Yeah. Can make another clone later. So now let's clone the Windows board. Configure. Boom. Boards. Create new. Dashboard. You're going to get nuked anyway in a second, so I don't care about naming you. I do care about populating you with the cell, though. See, this is the problem. Yeah, it's still defaulting to the wrong bucket. It's going to default to Linux because it's the first bucket. So that's fun. I'm glad I caught that and why that worked on Linux and not Windows. It's a tricky thing. This is definitely a tricky thing. But again, I think usability stuff for the stuff that I'm already monitoring matters much more than getting more crap in there that's not as usable. So let's go back to our boards. Let's get rid of this Windows clone. And let's get rid of name this dashboard. So I really think our best bet is to find a way to get that variable to work for any one of the hosts. So let's go to Explore. So is there something... I could. So there are unique measurements in every bucket. So starting from the top, Linux has systemd units that are always going to be there. pfSense is always going to be there. Proxmox is literally nothing but unique measurements. Windows version is unique. Win event log is obviously unique, and Win services is already unique. So what I think we might be able to do is to create statistics, or to create a bucket. Create a host variable such that it is unique to each item. And going down the road, I'm sure there's going to be specific things about anything I want to monitor. Like I'm sure, like say I get a Fortinet firewall or like a Sonic wall or something, there's going to be a crazy measurement unique to that device. I'm darn near sure, unless literally the only thing is syslog. So. That might be a workaround for now. So let's try that. So Linux has a whole bunch of stuff, but that's for like extensions and whatnot. So let's, excuse me. So let's create a host variable where it's only querying from a bucket that only has things that we care about. So let's go into the script editor. Create a Windows one. Where field is, we're measure, yeah. So these are the two things that I want. So let's create a Windows one that grabs Windows services. And grab service name. Oh, I didn't know those were tagged out. That's pretty freaking sweet. Let's return that as a table. Well, that by no means was unique. So what was that one doing? Measurement, system, field. Windows services. Field, state. God. I hate you, Windows. Let's choose a platform that isn't terrible. So this should theoretically return and now we should be able to do a distinct. I think unique is the correct keyword. Unique and distinct are similar, I think. So let's try that one out. So let's copy that. Let's go to here. Let's go to our board or our settings. Let's go to our variables. Let's go to our PVE node. Let's not break a production variable. So now let's go to our board. Let's go to our Proxmox metrics. Configure from bucket Proxmox. Boo. Boo. This is so dumb. Well, this is no fun. That's so weird. I cannot understand why that's happening. I just really can't. So confuzzling. So let's go back to here. Proxmox host, go away. Kind of curious how other people are dealing with this. Influx data. Influx data. There's like the community dashboards. That might be a good starting place. Community template, sorry. I believe they have to do instructions. Copy. So let's go to data. Or no, let's go to settings, templates. Lookup template. Crap. Whatever. So let's see how they calculate bucket. Hostname. Dashboard, bucket, Linux _ host. Oh, that's what he's doing. Fuck it, let's try it. Screw it, let's try it. Sorry. Swearing. Trying to work on that. I'm sorry. So now, create a dummy variable, a new variable called linhost. So now let's just create a dummy dash, or so let's go to Linux system. I'm just obsessed with this guy's dashboard. What am I trying so hard for? So settings, let's go to variables, Linux host. Submit that, go to boards, Linux system. And then this shouldn't matter, right? What's he doing here? Well, I broke some stranger's dashboards for no reason. So let's go to settings, templates, delete. There we go. So now let's create a new test board, new dashboard. Test, create a cell. Before I commit copyright infringement, I believe load data telegraph, link in the UI, install telegraph. Okay, cool. I think this whole repo is Apache 2 license. APL. Yay! Apache license. Permissive licensing is great. If I do end up going this route, I will credit that I benefit a lot from this. So thanks. Thank you very much, Influx community. I plan on contributing back to you someday. And that's another thing too, like I would feel much better giving my dashboards to this repository than building a relationship with this repository than actually getting SE Linux metrics for now. Especially because like a lot of the stuff I kind of am interested in, like the vSphere dashboard. It's such a weird VMware thing, but anyway. Boards test. So boards, I think we did linhost. So let's go to our Linux one. Let's just copy a simple CPU query. Oh, God. That literally just broke everything. 1 second. Copy. Test. Test. Script editor. Bonk. Hardcode the bucket. Let's just inject it. Get rid of one of the VDOTs. My guess is that V1 performs slowly. So let's go to here. Let's go to here. Okay. Priorities. I have this information when I need it. So I believe he was using the same regex that I was to grab buckets. So let's go into the YAML, find a bucket. I can fix the tabbing later. I had the same thing, so I think when it removed it from my bucket, yeah. Okay, so settings, variables, create variable name, new variable. I'm gonna call you bucket. Boards, Linux. Okay, cool. Boards. So now let's go to here. Let's go to data, or no, let's go to settings, variables. Instead of Linux or linhost, let's call this, CPU tag host. Yeah, that one should be pretty easy to tag. So let's copy this guy. Control X, cancel, delete, create variable, new variable, Linux host. Boards, Linux metrics, configure. So now theoretically we should be able to do Linux v dot Linux underscore host. And then notice that there's only one variable there. And now we're just rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. This is going to be a little boring, but I'm probably going to keep the stream going until I get this whole dashboard completed, just so we get a nice, like, with all the variables. So that's actually going to be really nice. It's also nice I get to do all these UI tweaks before this is production data. So from the Linux bucket, and we want from v dot Linux underscore host. I'm sure if I was a sed wizard, this would be really fun because I would dump my existing template out. No, I wouldn't. No, this would be terrible. I'd have to dump each dashboard individually. I was about to say I could sed v, or I could just substitute in vhost name with Linux host, and then I'm like, wait, there's not Linux hosts. There's more than just not Linux, or there's more than Linux hosts here. So net v dot Linux underscore host. So now we do this, Linux underscore host. let's do it like this. Sorry, I'm trying to think about like what's the easiest way to organize all this. Boop, boop. So we're gonna grab the host name, and then we're gonna do v.linux_host. And my guess, like I said earlier, might have been wrong about the v1 query being the slow part and running like an import operation. It might just be that it caches the variable. So the first time you calculate the variable, so like the first time the dashboard loads, it might load a little slower because it has to calculate the tags first. Like it has to calculate the variable names first. I'm not sure though. We'll find out. I know I'm halfway through this now, but it might be a good idea to test this out with a Windows host first. So boards, Windows metrics, configure. I wish I wasn't importing v1 functions because those might go away at some point, but yeah, cool. Boards, settings, variables. So let's delete this, or no, settings, boop, boop, AX, cancel, copy that. I'm just making the variable names. You could argue it's verbose, you could argue that it's descriptive. I'm gonna let you guys have that one out in the comments section down below. Tell me why I'm wrong, please. PVE node, Proxmox virtual environment. Proxmox is actually technically wrong because I make a backup server and a mail gateway. So PVE is actually a more technically correct term. If I want to, well, actually, people. Rip headphone listeners, I'm sorry you had to hear that. All right. So boards, Linux metrics. Yeah, everything kind of loaded in at the same time, so I think I'm right about that. Active, yeah, I think I got it. Linux host, cool. So I think I got all of these panels squared away. It's going to be super, super duper careful. Yep. So I just have to go down this panel. Oh, interface is still defined in terms of Linux host. Poop. I was so close. Damn it. Oh, I just do Linux interface. Yeah, that means there's more variables I'm farting around with, but that also means that caching is going to work correctly, so take the good with the bad. Yes, I understand this is rather tedious. I'm sorry. Vita Linux underscore host. Submit. So I'm going to go down all of these and then go figure out the network interface part. Was that CPU count, right? Boop. Come on, come on. Two more. Two more. The slog's almost over. The reign of poorly cached buckets is soon to come to an end. Alright. Oop. Vita Linux underscore host. Configure. Vita. Oh, that was almost scary. Cannot find bucket Linux host. I'm like, how bad did I screw up this typo? Yay, my FUSA is now focal. So the problem is going to be inbound traffic. Vita interface is still defined in terms of the bucket, I believe. So what we need to do now is, in order to get rid of bucket, we have to go over to our settings, our variables, and we have to redefine interface. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this guy out. Close, create variable, new variable, paste that in, and we should just be able to hard code the bucket. And then shift tab, Linux interface. So now we go to our boards, we go to our Linux metrics. We go to here, we go to here. Linux underscore interface. My heart skipped a beat there, I am not gonna lie. Should just actually be able to do Linux underscore interface. I don't know if I changed the shut up key length exceeded. All right, so who is still using that bucket thing? From v.linux, Linux interface. Okay, cool, cool, cool. This is rather strange. Inbound traffic. Let's double check that I interface, Linux interface. Oh, that's why. v.linux, time range, time start. Cool. I wonder if I could export it, copy it into VS Code, and figure out where bucket and host are still used in the YAML. That might be the fastest way to do this. Settings, export. Actually, I think there's a download JSON. Open with, we'll just save it. Open with Codium, the one true editor. Type ID, views, CPU count, chronograph, v2. CPU count, that's where it is. So CPU count and host name. Okay, cool. Yay! Easy one. That is cute. I'm a happy boy. I'm a happy boy. All right. So we're going to leave the stream on that good news. I don't think there's really a whole lot of people that want to watch me clean my stuff up. So yeah, that's basically where we're going to kind of pick it up next time, is with all the dashboards are going to have their buckets predefined. Shout out to whoever made that awesome Linux system board. So yeah. All right. It was good streaming. Woo woo. End stream.